Today's lesson is on how to cook macaroni and tomatoes that actually taste good. First of all, you're going to have a cup of coffee. Then of course you got to put a little bit of sugar in your coffee. And then maybe a little bit of milk if you don't have any cream, because maybe you're a little cheap like I am. So I just put a little bit of milk in there. You gotta stir it up a little bit. Okay, now that we have coffee, now we'll have the energy to put this together. Alright, to make good macaroni and tomatoes, this is all you need. You need 1 pound of elbow macaroni and just 1 can of diced tomatoes. Don't get the crushed ones or anything like that, get diced. Diced tomatoes, 1 pound of elbow macaroni. Alright, the next thing you need a pan, kind of like this one here. You can use other pans, you can't use mine, but you need a pan similar to this one here. Okay, then you want to put it on the stovetop on one of your big burners, and you want to make sure you turn the right burner on. I don't like to put it on high because I've had these burner plates like self-detonate. I don't know if you've ever had that. It's kind of like running an arc welder. You don't want that to happen. So I never use high. I use 1 notch below high on there. It could probably still happen, I'm sure, but... Oh, and you want to put some salt. Put some salt in your water. Okay, the next thing you want to do is you want to open your can of diced tomatoes with the can opener. So you take a can opener, and of course the first thing you want to do, no, is don't unplug your microwave, because then you lost the time on it. But you want to make sure that you plug your can opener in if it's an electric one. You want to open your can of diced tomatoes. Now the biggest mistake in making macaroni and tomatoes is you don't cook the noodles and then just dump the tomatoes on the noodles cold, because then they'll taste horrifying. It just won't taste good at all. If you want it to taste good, here's my little secret to making macaroni and tomatoes taste good. Get you another little pan, a smaller one. You can use a bigger one if you like cleaning big dishes. And you take and you dump your tomatoes in the pan. Now you want to take about a half a can, maybe a little bit less than half a can of water, and dump it in there, in with your tomatoes. Okay, you want to make sure that you get the water all the way to a roll boil before you put the elbow macaroni or any of the other pastas that you decided you wanted to use. But elbow macaroni is the noodle of choice for macaroni and tomatoes. Otherwise it wouldn't be macaroni and tomatoes. Okay, now you see that both items are starting to boil. Like these tomatoes are starting to boil. So we had that on the 4 o'clock position. We want to now turn it to approximately the 8 o'clock position. You don't want to burn it all up. Just let it simmer. If it, you want to make sure it still kind of bubbles a little bit. If it don't, you can turn it up a little bit more. If it bubbles too much, you can turn it down a little bit. I see your water starting to boil in your thing, so you can now open up your elbow macaronis. 1 pound of elbow macaroni. So you have a roll boil. That's what my mom always said. She said you watch for a roll boil. So now you can dump your macaroni in here. Oh, and this is, always make sure you don't burn yourself. I don't want to get in any lawsuits because you burnt yourself. Hot stuff burns, so don't touch any, you do not want to touch anything that's hot with any part of your body. You want to make sure you don't dump any hot water or hot sauces on your body elements, because it might just cause damage that, you know, that is kind of affects you in the head or whatever. You know, it's hard to say how each person would react if you burnt yourself, so just don't do it. That's our disclaimer for today. You want to make sure you stir your macaroni good. Make sure you're kind of going along the bottom of the pan with the pasta type stir. And you want to stir it and make sure that it's still boiling good. Now turn that heat down to about the 5:30, maybe 5 o'clock position, because you don't want to boil over, which can lead to an absolute disaster. Make sure you stir it again. Stir your sauce up. The reason why you use so much water in your tomatoes is because the macaroni will actually suck up a lot of that liquid. So I mean, and it's good to have a little bit extra in there in case you decide you don't want to eat the whole pound yourself, and maybe you want to put it in a storage container, which I don't recommend that, because if you store it for a day or two in a container, it just don't taste as good. You know, the second day it tastes better fresh. So just keep stirring this, and every once in a while, and it should be fine. You can add more spices now if you wanted to. You could add a little bit more onion powder, a little bit more, just a tiny little bit more garlic. Sometimes it tastes better to put a second dose of spice in your sauce, but that's up to you and your preferences. I mean, I'm just going to go ahead and leave it just like it is now. I'm just going to let it kind of simmer just a little bit right now. Our noodles are boiling. You want to make sure you throw all your containers that had your tomatoes and your macaroni, since they're now empty. You want to put it in the trash. That way your wife don't kick your butt, or your husband, whoever it is. You also may want to think about taking your trash out, because you know you're going to get yelled at by your spouse because, you know, stuff's about to fall on the floor. So after you take your trash out, you want to make sure that you wash your hands again. Maybe dry them off a little bit. Maybe get another sip of coffee. You want to make sure you continue to keep stirring. Make sure it's still got a little bit of boil to it. Mine kind of slowed down a little bit, so I may want to turn the heat up just a tiny little bit. Make sure you keep stirring your tomatoes. After your noodles start to get kind of a little bit puffy looking, stir them up, and you can take some noodles, dump it on your plate, and stir your sauce up, and maybe just take a little bit of your sauce and dump it on them, a little bit of noodles, put a little bit of salt on it, and you can taste to see if your noodles are done. They're getting there, but they're not quite there yet. Oh, you wanted to pray before you even took a bite too. That's another thing you might want to remember. Okay, after your noodles are tender and perfect, not turned to mush, but tender and perfect, you now want to turn, and this is a disclaimer, you want to turn all your burners off completely. Make sure there's no burners left on the stove. Get in your cupboard, and you want to get a strainer. Be careful not to burn yourself with the boiling water, because it can seriously injure you. Carefully take your pasta, and you want to strain all the hot boiling water out using extreme caution not to burn yourself. All items here are stinking hot, so be careful. Get all the water strained out of your noodles, being careful not to burn yourself. Then you can dump it back in your pan. I want to think about doing dishes after this is all over as well. Now you want to take your sauce carefully, trying not to burn yourself. Dump all your sauce in the noodles. And stir your noodles and your sauce together. Then you want to get a bowl, and you want to get in your fridge and get some butter, because it tastes really good if you put butter and salt on it. And that, my friends, is how you make delicious macaroni and tomatoes that actually taste good. Thank you, and God bless.